first time ever.
Hear you loud and clearly.
And it was going place.
That stuff's great.
But the game is not a roguelike.
Boomer shooter.
Bang.
Hello, this is John St. John, and you're listening to KEEP In the Keep, bringing you all the hits from the finest in the world of gaming and entertainment. Now sit back and relax as the drowned god Quicktequila lulls your mind with the tastiest talk in town.
Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. The Keep is a collective of gaming enthusiasts compelled by the drowned god Quicktequila to frag and jib one another into oblivion for all eternity. Yo, hope you guys are out there enjoying the new year. 2020 is finally over. It is 2021, motherfuckers. Time for new things. New opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, this week's guest is Vidvat, or as we're going to call him in the interview, per his request, Victor. You may also know him as Quicktequila, the developer of the Lovely Planet series. Some really incredible, cute, I don't even know how to put it, just awesome puzzle first-person shooters that highly encourage speedrunning. We're going to get into all that here in the interview. We're also joined by GelmoSan of In the Keep, who is my right-hand man. If you like anything In the Keep does, especially our esports stuff, GelmoSan is the man behind it. But he was truly passionate about this game, and I invited him to help me out with the interview because he's far more versed in Quicktequila's games than I am. So please enjoy this. It's a really fun conversation. We're not going to talk for too long today. Play a little bit of music from the soundtrack to Lovely Planet, and soon you will be in the Keep with Quicktequila.
Cool. So yeah, my name is Vidvat. I'm the one-man developer behind Quicktequila. I made all of the Lovely Planet games. So Lovely Planet Arcade, Super Lovely Planet, and most recently Lovely Planet 2. And they're all like cutesy. Most of them are shooter games. They're all cute and happy and funny, and they've got a lot of color in it. But they also get very difficult. So that's it's kind of like a speedrun affair. So yeah, that's basically what I do.
So when you first set out to make the first Lovely Planet game, like what had been your experience up to then in development?
So I've been a hobbyist like game developer since the very beginning, like as far as I can remember. I've always wanted to, play games and make games. I picked up computer programming when I was super young. I was like 8 years old, and I was always hacking up like small demos of like, little games, nothing commercial. Like I would never put anything out like commercially before Lovely Planet. Lots of like small demos all the way through high school and university. I was dedicated. Like my life was just, there was one thing that I have to do, and that's to make video games. So there was never really any question there. So that was mostly my experience, was just hacking up games of my own. Some of them I would put out for people to play. But yeah, Lovely Planet was the first time where I like put it out and it got some traction. So it turned into like an indie game.
So where were you at originally when you first got into gaming?
I was super young, so I was brought up in New Delhi, India.
Okay.
And I've always had like a fascination for video games. My dad got home a Sega Genesis, I think one of those bootleg version Sega Genesis with the 100 games in one cartridges.
Nice.
And I was a big fan of like Sonic the Hedgehog. I never got into like the whole like Nintendo like games, so I never played like Tetris and Mario growing up. I eventually played them, but I started off with stuff like Sonic and Contra and all of those games. And I always knew that I was just going to, one day grow up and make video games. So yeah, most of I was in New Delhi when I was working on Lovely Planet.
Okay.
Just want to throw it out there.
Mhm.
Sonic blows away Mario. It's so much faster.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
best
I
part.
know. I know. I just like I was very new to video games, and Sonic was just, oh my god, he's going so fast and all of that. But yeah, then like I learned about other games and I realized that Sonic is, I mean, it's okay, I guess. Like it had its charm back in the day, but there's like the Nintendo games were definitely a lot better designed in every way.
Mario had, the brand on its side, and it was quite innovative as the first kind of game in that genre to really take off with, like, the strong character-based platformer.
Of course.
But Sonic, like, considering that, the systems that it was on is more impressive. Like, it really went out of the fucking way to just turn whatever console they happened to be using Sonic on to the limit. Until Mario 64, and then I have to like hand it over and say, all right, Mario 64, you take the cake. But
right. Didn't they have that whole marketing, back and forth with Sonic being like on the Sega Genesis? It had what were they calling it, the Beast processor or something? Yeah, so that was like, I think, I don't know, Sonic was like the Sega's answer to Mario, I think, and back in the day that was the console wars of that generation, I guess.
Yeah, it was like WWF versus WCW of the time, like Mario versus
Right.
Sonic. And then I mean, nowadays they're facing each other in the Olympics, so we're not totally wrong.
True. Yeah.
But let's get back to you. So we kind of left off where Lovely Planet, you were making that in New Delhi, and then did you feel like this is the one, this is going to be the hit when you were making it?
Well, when I started working on it, it was like any other project, like I would just work on it because I thought it was fun. Like I'd made a lot of games at that point, like not commercial games, but games that I just completed. So I learned that lesson where like I wasn't just hacking away on a game just for the sake of it. I was also determined to like complete it and make it like a complete product. And I got out of university, and that was the time when I was like, okay, I've got nothing to do. I was in my parents' house. I've got no responsibilities. I've got no job, nothing. What am I going to do with all this free time? I'm going to make a video game, right? And I spent a good 6 months on it, actually, without anyone like talking about it or seeing it, or I didn't know if there's going to be interest in this game. I had no idea if it's going to be the next big thing or my first like commercial game or anything like that. I had no idea about it, but I stuck to it. And I was maintaining a small devlog for the game. I would post some updates. No one would read my blog at the time. A couple of websites where I posted about the game to get some feedback. TIG forums, I think back in the day it was pretty active. And I was putting out like short like trailers. I would just that was like a fun. It still is like a very like fun and interesting part of what I do. I really like teasing a game that I'm working on. So I would make a trailer and put it up, all like copied like audios, sound effects from the internet, and I would just record some gameplay and put it out there. And then it was sometime in December of 2013, I think, Kotaku picked up the game and they wrote a short article about it. And suddenly like 25,000 plus people were like looking at that, looking at screenshots of my game. And that's how it's, yeah, that was the moment where I was like, oh, hold on one second. Maybe this is going to be a thing, So I called up a couple of my friends, a few people that I knew in the industry back home in India. They gave me some, they gave me some feedback. They gave me some guidance. I sent out a few emails to, pitch the game to publishers, and finally landed a deal with the awesome guys over at Tiny Build Games. And they were like, yeah, we're gonna help you finish this thing. And then I worked on the game for another six to 8 months. And 3 days after it came out, PewDiePie was playing it on his channel.
It's
That's phenomenal.
For a debut kind of indie game, even though it does have a publisher, but the amount of content that you have in that first game is such an incredible value before we even start talking about, how good of a game it actually is. It's so much. Like, you could do this forever, and it's like a sticking a syringe of fresh black tar heroin right in your veins every time you play it.
100 levels, 100 plus
So,
levels. That was
yeah.
one of the marketing, like one of the lines, back of the box lines. It was like, you've got 100 levels. You're gonna love
Yeah,
it.
it's a very impressive offering, especially for a single developer game.
And you did all of this completely on your own? Like, there's no other level designers, no other artists, anything?
All of the programming, the design, the art, I did by myself. The audio, some of the sound effects, and all of the soundtrack was done by Callum Bowen. Basically all of the art and the programming, I did that myself.
So I want to start with talking about the art style. Like, what crazy acid dream did you come up with this in? Why?
Yeah, I get
Why
that
that
asked a lot. So I mean, I have like this design philosophy where, like, I know I'm the only person working on the game, right? If I'm gonna finish something, it has to be something that I can scale, something that I can, pull off on my own. I know this before going into any game. If I'm working on it myself, I have to pick something that, first of all, it can't be photorealistic. If I have to spend, 2 months on one level to like texture it and make it look realistic and all, it's just not gonna work, right? I know this already. Like, if I really wanted to make a game like that, if it was really important for it to be photorealistic, I would put in the effort. But going into like working on a game which I know I'm going to be working on myself, at the back of my head, I already know it's going to be something quick and dirty in terms of, the art style. And that was the initial, in my head, that was what I was going into Lovely Planet thinking, that okay, it's got to be something that I can, just slap together and it'll just work, right? Everything was modular, everything had to just fit. And at the time, it was just a prototype for a first person shooter game, right? It was just a platformer with, enemies that would like shoot bullets at you, like simple stuff. And during the first 2 months of development, I discovered, for the first time in my life, Japanese pop music. Yeah, that's basically where the art style comes from. I was watching these crazy like Japanese videos with really like abstract, colorful art, and obviously like a cute like Japanese girl like dancing around and singing in this like awesome like Japanese music. Now, and on the side of like on one tab, we have this video playing, and I just alt tab away into like this Unity project, which is just a bare bones shooter game. I was like, why not? Why not throw in some color over here? So that was basically the inspiration at the time, and also it made sense to me because if you want to play a gritty like military based first person shooter game, there's already so many of them out there, right? And I knew that this is one way to stand out. Like, this is one way where if somebody looks at a screenshot of your game, they can instantly identify it as like being something different and unique. So it had all those things going for it. So it made sense to make it all cutesy and weird.
No, you successfully tricked a bunch of people who ordinarily wouldn't play first person shooters into doing it. Like, it's like not even something you really think about if you're coming from like, oh, look at that beautiful artwork, I want to try that game out. And if they're really into, cutesy games, and there's a huge market for that, obviously, then you've just tricked them into basically playing Doom, as far as I'm concerned. Because the gameplay is very much like a chess match. It's so cool. I love it. Like, and for me, I don't care what graphics you use as long as it feels good. And that was like kind of the big selling point you gave me on it, Gelmo. So I'd actually like to turn it over to you to ask a few questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I got a few questions about how you chose the gameplay mechanics that you chose. One of the biggest appealing things to me about Lovely Planet overall is that the gameplay characteristics are equally tailored for beginners as they are for, or as the mechanics are tailored for, experience FPS players and even AFPS players. You chose to use, a rocket launcher, essentially a projectile weapon, as your primary weapon, the only weapon. The weapon does not always shoot in the center of the screen. The weapon moves while you move, and that affects your trajectory of your projectiles, just like in the Tribe series. And on top of that, as you progress further through the game, what started off as an opportunity to speedrun becomes an essential part of playing the game. So you're mixing these advanced, gameplay mechanics while presenting them for a beginner audience, but you're also teaching those beginner players how to become extremely skillful and precise FPS players. Because when you get to the last world or the fourth world of Lovely Planet 1, for example, you literally cannot beat a level without speedrunning. You're going to miss the balls, for example. I don't know what you refer to them as, but the balls that shoot up and come down, you have to shoot them before they land on the ground, and it simply is not possible to do that without tackling the level as if it is a speedrun. So I'm just curious on how you chose, that combination of gameplay mechanics.
Right. That's it. You put it in a very flattering way, as if like I put all that thought into it. I did, but it all didn't like it. Just it wasn't something that I threw into like a game design document or something like that, where it all came to me in one go, and I was like, all right, this is the game that I'm going to work on, and I can see every level that I'm going to put into the game. It was a very like a piecemeal process for me. Like not a lot of people know this. When I started prototyping Lovely Planet, it wasn't called Lovely Planet. It was actually a stealth game, right? I just booted up Unity. I was like, what am I going to do today? I'm going to make a video game, and it's going to be, first person, and you're going to move around, and it's going to be awesome. And that was it. And I put like an enemy in the game, and I called it a turret, and it would, spawn a bullet and just, send it my way, like at the player. And I was like, okay, where can I take it from here? Okay. And that was, I think, how most of the game came together eventually. Like that process of just looking at what I've got in front of me. How can I make it interesting? How can I add to it? That basically all the mechanics that you're seeing in the game, they basically come from there. So again, my design philosophy has always been, gameplay first, keep it simple. Always like, I love it when things are like simple and easy for players to understand. Like I myself play very simple games. All the games that I've been really into, they've all been very simple. I can't do the games with like all those numbers in them, and then you have to like sit down and like make decisions. I like my games really simple. And Lovely Planet, I wanted that in Lovely Planet as well. So like you said, a rocket launcher. Like for me, it was just a gun which like fires a projectile instead of hit scan. Because hit scan just, every Call of Duty game does it. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to make it different. So you take the same bullet that I put in the turret, I put it on my gun, and then before you know it, I play a level, and my bullet goes towards the turret fires back, and the bullets collide. And I'm like, hey, that's actually a pretty good mechanic where like I can just shoot off, the bullets that enemies are throwing at me. That's like a cool, like high skill thing to do for players who are, going to be better at the game, right? That's one way to, if you want to not avoid enemies, you can just shoot the bullets out of, the air, and that's great. So that's another mechanic like in the box, right? So I'm going to keep that. From there, I realized that I don't want players to like just, treat it like a cover shooter where you're just like sitting in one spot and like firing at enemies. And the first couple of levels you can do that. After that, I was like, there's got to be some way to get players to, pick up the pace a little bit and like not sit in one place, because I don't want to encourage like for the game to be played slowly. So what do? You add something that, if you don't get to it in time, then you die. So that's where the apple bombs come, right? That's what they're called in the game also. Like none of the enemies or any of the entities in the game, they're never given a name outside of like some help text that calls enemies baddies. Other than that, yeah, I just let's take the mechanics from Duck Hunt, where like there's just projectiles, there's just stuff that you have to shoot out of the out of the sky, and the bombs really, they really fit. They fit that problem that I was trying to solve. So piece by piece, these mechanics started to just, they just more of the levels saw more of these mechanics come in, and yeah, we can go on from there. Like World 3, World 4, World 5, like all of them, like very similar process.
Yeah,
That's so impressive. You definitely happened upon a winning equation for making a satisfying and widely marketable game.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of things that fell into place. Sometimes I don't even know how like I did it. Things just, I think, like at the time, like I wrote about this on my blog also, where there was just a certain time while I was working on Lovely Planet where things would just fall into place. I would have no way to explain like how I came up with them, and they would make complete sense, also in the aesthetics of the game and the mechanics of the game, and I didn't have those two things in my head when I was like working on like solving that problem. Like you come up with a solution to a problem, and then you suddenly realize that you've solved like three other problems that you're going to run into, but you had no idea because like it fit, right? And a lot of like the development of Lovely Planet was like that. The enemies are square, and that makes them like targetable, like that you can easily see what you have to shoot, and the bullets are all the same color because they all behave the same way. Bullets can take out enemies also. Like if they're firing bullets, they can take out the bombs and stuff like that. So everything just kind of fit.
Between you take a player from the first world who can barely do anything. Like anyone could play that first level and figure it out pretty quickly, and it would be fun. And then by the time we're a few levels down the road, you're asking people to do like a jumping fadeaway 180 shot, and then turn around and kill another enemy who's already firing at them. And the learning curve is so insane and so quick, because I think after I want to say level 3, I was looking at Gelmo because he asked me to play this, and I was like, dude, I don't know. This game just seems like it's for children. He's like, just stick to it. it. And then now I'm, openly cursing. If I don't get 3 stars, I consider it a failure. And
yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, people just like players set their own goals. Like you can get 1 star and like keep playing, but no, some players are just like, nah, I can't let the game tell me that I'm not good enough. And that's how they, in some ways it's fun and challenging, but it also like if you take it too far, it becomes like less exciting. Some players leave the game because they don't want to play through it being told that they're not good enough, right? Yeah. So players set their own goals. Yeah,
it really is
a lot of the
storm. Go ahead.
A lot of the balancing, right, of the game, the way it came out, how it gets super difficult the moment you get to World 2 when the bombs show up. That wasn't really planned. It was play tested a little bit. Like I saw some players struggling with it, and I knew that that's something that I could fix, but I didn't. I decided not to. So that I think that that's part of the charm of the game, where it lulls you into playing this cute shooter game in the first world, and then it's like, all right, I got you. Now you're in for a ride, and then that's I think that really worked. I didn't realize that while I was working on the game. It's something that really hit me after. So I don't want to take too much of the credit there.
But it becomes like, without ever changing the art style into like literally going into like, oh, here, and then the trip begins. You make it like a nightmare. Like it's really, you're playing like ultra violent level, like skill level stuff at some point, and without ever realizing how you got there. And it's just, I think by the 4th world, you have the enemies that were their bullets are tracing you, and then you're asking people to hit multiple projectiles mid-air before you can simply to complete the level. So at the very basis, you're asking someone to do something that in a pro level Quake player would probably not be able to accomplish in their mind.
Right. Yeah. And also at the same time, like while all of this is happening, there's cute music playing at the back. Yes. So it's almost like the game's mocking you, right?
Yes.
Such a good combination.
It's really
right. That really worked.
So where did you go from there? Like, what was looking at the sophomore album like for you?
Yeah, Lovely Planet was just a dream come true, really, at the time. Yeah, I always wanted to make games, man. I always wanted to make games and have like people play it and like tell me how much they enjoyed it and all of that. That was like the kid inside me was just like, you did it, right? That was what it was like at the time. After that, like I tried to make a couple of more Lovely Planet games, and I didn't want to do the same game over and over again. I did make more Lovely Planet games, but they were all different. So Lovely Planet Arcade was like more of like a puzzle first person shoot. Yeah, and it was like
Love
you
that.
can't look up and down. You enjoyed that game? Like not a lot of people played that game.
I've played probably 2,000 hours of puzzle and logic and co-op games on the Steam platform. I'm a huge fan of puzzle games and logic games, and Lovely Planet Arcade definitely fills that itch for me.
Cool. No, that's awesome because like I felt that players were just expecting like more of like a Lovely Planet kind of game, and it was called Lovely Planet, and that's I don't know, like the whole marketing aspect of like making games is still pretty much a mystery to me. So I think players just didn't go in expecting the game that it was.
It's almost like
Planet
Lovely
Arcade.
Planet isn't really a brand that describes the gameplay, but it's rather the environment that the gameplay takes place in.
May I?
Very much so, yeah.
If I were to, this is not a suggestion, it's just like an observation based on what you've done so far. You know how Devolver handles the Serious Sam franchise, where Serious Sam used to just describe a first-person shooter game where you run backwards, but now it's just an art style, a character, and then you can throw them into whatever genre you want. They tried to do the same thing with Duke Nukem. Where like you have Duke games that are 2D platformers, you have Duke games that are first-person shooters, and so on and so forth. And
Yep.
that's what I see you doing with this franchise. Like you can explore any genre of game you want as long as you kind of carry what makes Lovely Planet with it. So for instance, you played Hotline Miami, right?
Yep.
Like you could easily like take these same characters and enemies and kind of throw them into a totally different program and do it that way.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. Like it's really, really. I don't, again, because you keep saying like it all happened accidentally. It wasn't part of my plan, but it very much to the outside as a marketer looking at you looks like a great opportunity.
Right, I think I did a little bit of that with Lovely Planet Arcade and Super Lovely Planet. Super Lovely Planet, for example, it's a third-person platformer with no shooting, right? And I kind of really enjoy doing that because for me, I wanted to explore like different play styles, different mechanics, different gameplay. I have I don't play a lot of third-person platformers, but I really wanted to try something new with Super Lovely Planet. And I'm not sure still if it was a good idea to have the same aesthetic and the same brand name on a game that's completely different. I don't know if it would have been a game that was received better if it didn't have the same name and aesthetic. I still don't know. Like if you can give me examples of like I don't know how Serious Sam. I've not really followed on the Serious Sam or Duke Nukem games, but there are. I can name only a few games that do that, where they carry this one aesthetic and they do different genre of games under it. Like, are there any other examples of that?
Okay, so let's just take Serious Sam for example, since it's the first one I brought up, right?
I would say Mario.
Oh well, of course, Mario is another great example. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you have the first and second encounter of Serious Sam and Serious. Those are straight up like almost Doom clone style games. Like there were the things about Serious Sam that made it unique, but overall, just a straight up retro first person shooter. Serious Sam 2 becomes more of like an adventure game. They try to recapture these things with Serious Sam 3 and 4, but it's not that. It's the side marketing stuff. So the spin-off games that really make it stand out to me. So you have Serious Sam on the Advance, which is still a first-person shooter, but it's a Game Boy Advanced style first-person shooter. Then you have Serious Sam Double D, which is a straight-up 2D platformer shooter. the random encounter. Like, they go absolutely crazy to the point where they get to a point where you have Serious Sam, which was one of my favorites, Tournamental, and this is a top-down roguelike shooter, but with still Serious Sam as the main character of the game. And so what they've done is they've taken that brand name and this is a character that we all know and love, and you'll probably buy it because you're familiar with it. But they just shop it out to like different, like, hey, you guys want to take the Sam brand and make a roguelike game? Do it. You guys want to make a 2D shooter? Why not? And then diversify your investments, and then you end up with this character that, like, let's say I'm some kid and I just picked up I like roguelites, I'll check that out. And now it's like, I really like this character, and then I'll look it up. What is Serious Sam all about? And then they end up buying every other game in that chain. So does that make sense? The way I'm explaining it?
It does make sense. It does. Like I get the appeal of like, hey, you're in it for the aesthetic and the character and the story and all of that, or you're in it for, hey, I want to try this new kind of game out because I'm into this particular genre, right? So you can really branch out from there and get like different people on board. There's one situation where I think it's all got to do with how you communicate it. I feel that I feel that you can really betray like fans of like the previous game, right? If you had fans who were like completely into the gameplay and they loved every aspect of it, and then you come out with a game that has the same name really, but it's completely different. So I think if you have to be very careful with the way you're talking to the way you're doing your marketing and the way you're talking to players. And you let them know that, hey, this is not the same game, and you should know that. And I think like if that's something you can manage and if you can do properly, then yeah, this is something that is that it can work, I think. Right. But with Lovely Planet, I think we didn't. I don't think the messaging for arcade was. I think we could have done a better job of calling it a puzzle first-person shooter, for example, which kind of I think I skipped on. And if that was the case, I think it would have I think it would have been received better.
I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, you don't want to have your favorite Japanese pop band, and if they woke up tomorrow and put out like an American traditional bluegrass album, that might divide fans.
Right. Yeah, but also developers, like, even musicians do this, right? Like, even bands do this. They evolve. Like, their albums change, right? Like, they don't keep making the same genre of music. They do it once, and then they also want to just like grow and learn, and like their tastes change, their attitudes change. They're not young forever, so they make different kind of music as they go on. And I think it works the same way. It should work the same way with some developers also, where I mean personally, I don't want to keep making the same game over and over again. Sure. So that's why I feel that it's I stand by the games that I made. I think they were really fun to make, and I still get like positive feedback for all the other games in the Lovely Planet series as well. So there are players out there who liked third-person platformer in the Lovely Planet franchise.
Yeah, even within the original Lovely Planet, it's very clear that there's significantly more people playing it without the hardcore gamer perspective. Like, when you unlock an achievement for acing an entire world, for example, it'll tell you that, like 2.5% of people have unlocked this achievement.
Right.
And
yes.
To me, at first, that's crazy because to me, as somebody who really enjoys the difficulty and the speedrunning combined, that's the only way to play the game. Just like Milo was saying, 3 stars or nothing. So for me to see that
3 stars or I won't
only
sleep
2% of the players accomplish this, it just blows my mind. It's like, wow, how are all these people playing this game and not accomplishing it? That's the best part.
That's the most
enjoyable.
Interesting part. That's the part. That's the reason why I feel that the game reaches all these people, all these different players, because there are so many different players, man. Like, everyone is looking for something so completely different, and I am a certain style of video game player. Like I like to play games of a certain kind, and I like to play them a certain way, and I take something away from it. And everyone has their own version of it. Like you can put them in buckets, right? Like we have all these, like we have a whole taxonomy around it, like hyper casual games and casual games and hardcore players and whatever. Like but these are just names, right? They mean something, but they're not like they don't solve this problem of like figuring out what players want and what they take away from a game. That's like a very nuanced thing, and Lovely Planet does that because it allows you to play, competitively. Like there are leaderboards, and then it also lets you just hang around and have fun if that's what you're in for, at least for the first couple of levels. Right.
So
Yeah.
that's actually a really good segue to another long question I have for you. So, in regard to catering the game towards a wide variety of players and the game being able to be enjoyed by a wide variety of players who have a variety of play styles, you made a very explicit choice that I'm very happy with, that a lot of game developers are not okay with. When you included two things in the game that allowed for a totally different gameplay experience. Number one, the leaderboards, and number two, achievements that reward you for not playing the level the correct way. For example, going out of the way to find, like the secret graveyard, for example. You are rewarding people for intentionally playing the game incorrectly. They're not necessarily trying to beat the level as fast as possible while playing the level the way it's intended to be played. They're trying to figure out how to break the level so they can go around backwards and hit another person first, or play most of the level standing right next to the end zone.
And to not set off some of the
developers, right?
Yeah.
Most developers, when they see that stuff happening in their game, they'll jump in, they'll patch those issues, and say, "No, we need you guys to play it the way that we intended it." But you said, "Oh, that's awesome. Let's add a leaderboard. You guys have fun. Make this game whatever you want it to be." And that tells me everything I need to know about a developer. You're not in this to just get a cash grab and jump in and jump out. You really are trying to make the most enjoyable game possible for the most amount of people, and you are changing your perspective on the game to make sure that is accomplished. And that is something that I really want to congratulate you for. If you have any comments on that speed running and game breaking combination, I would be very interested in hearing that.
First of all, thanks, man. Like, yeah, I've been following games development for the longest time. I have people who I look up to, kind of games that I grew up with, and I think all of those things influenced me, and all the micro decisions that went into making Lovely Planet, and all the little mechanics, the achievements, the secrets, the leaderboards, and all of those things. Like there was some a combination of some thinking that went into it, right? The moment you tell the player how to play the game, you're doing it wrong. I think players should be able to enjoy the game the way they want to enjoy it. If they find a fun way to play their game, that's your game, that's awesome, right? Like if you enjoy it this way, go ahead and do that, right? I have a few ways that I know that I could play this game and enjoy it, and I design all the things around them so that I make sure that it's like a smooth experience. But outside of that, once you give the players to the game to the players, they can do whatever the hell they want with it, right? And you should be okay with that. Like I'm not going to go in and change things to make players to force players to play it a certain way. So the achievements, the leaderboards, first of all, they were not part of the original game. They came out after the game was released. I did not want to put leaderboards in the game initially because I felt that first of all, it was a technical challenge for me at the time. I did not know how to do leaderboards. But yeah, Tiny Build, my publisher, they were like, "You should really put leaderboards." And I'm like, "Actually, you know what? That's not a bad idea. Let's do it." And we added the leaderboards, and that turned out to be a big part of the game. Like lots of players really want to, have their name show up there on a tiny indie game that, a couple of people are playing. Like so for some people, that's the thing. And I'm like, sure, man, I get it. Like you should, if you want to compete on this game, you should do that. And then there's speedrunners who are like finding ways to break your game. That I expected. Like I saw that coming from a mile away, and the genius creative ways they run across levels. It's amazing to see that, like that someone best you at your own game. Oh man, that was just that's a whole different feeling.
It
And
really adds infinite replay value.
oh yeah, some players see they've discovered their way of playing the game. They've found that the game doesn't force you into playing like a certain way, because the levels are kind of loosely designed, right? uh, and then that's their ticket to like do whatever the hell they want with the game, right? They have few rules that they follow, and outside of that they do whatever they want. And speedrunning is a thing, right? Like every game has this. All games have bugs, right? Or like a unintentional like way, like an unintended way to play it, right? And did I design for that in a certain way? Yeah, like I didn't really see all the shortcuts while I was like designing the levels, but I knew that if somebody really wanted to like get on the leaderboard and they were willing to do insane things, they could figure it out. Even without a crosshair, they could just do it. And I was like,
Right.
is that gonna break the game for most players? No, it's not actually. Like, is the speed running path where you take all the shortcuts less fun? Maybe, maybe not. I don't really need to design that part of the game. Like, I don't need to be sure of like all the shortcuts and all of that, because then it looks like the developer just went in and like did it for you. So it takes away from the reward that the players are getting from like finding shortcuts and breaking the game. So that aspect of it is definitely, I think, for speedrunners, it's a very big part of the game.
Gentlemen,
sure.
real quick, I'm actually going to step away and make myself another drink real quick, but please feel free to keep talking, and I will rejoin you.
Sure.
Yeah,
And yeah, the secrets also. I wanted achievements, and if you look at all the achievements, all the hidden parts of the game, they're all references to Akira Kurosawa's movies.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to throw, like, I'm a fan, so I'm gonna fanboy out every opportunity that I get. So I threw in like a couple of movie references.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What's the what was the main J-pop group that influenced the game the most? What was the biggest individual influence in the game? In the design of the game, the visual design.
The visual design, I think initially it's not like a direct inspiration. Like it was one of the first and one of the biggest inspirations at the time. Kyari Pamyu Pamyu.
Okay.
She had a bunch of videos coming out during that time. She was at her peak, and man, the music is just amazing. Like Yasutaka Nakata, I think, I don't know how to say his name. He's the composer behind it. And man, that music is just super catchy, and the visuals are so out there. They're so different from all of like Western pop media culture that you get to consume, right? Like it's so different. Like it's uncomfortable to watch for some people, because there's like girls dressed in like a questionable age, and it's all like high pitched voices, and like it's not for some people. I get it, but just the creativity that goes into it, the artwork, all the animations playing at the back, it's like cute and
Second
it's
to none.
grotesque. No, nobody does that, and it took me by surprise. I was like, wow, this is so fresh. Like this is just so awesome, right? And I thought that, what if I could just take this vibe, really, like this feeling. So it wasn't like I was picking like direct like color palettes or like objects or whatever, or animation styles or anything. I was just like, I need my game to feel a little bit like this. So that's, I think, Kari Pamyu Pamyu was one, and then a lot of other like Japanese music. Perfume is this other band, again, like produced by the same guy, same composer. What else? Yeah, I think that those two, I think I was like just on my Spotify, they were just on repeat like all the time. I was just listening to that stuff.
That's so awesome. We should maybe get a list of some artists from you, and we could include those in the post about the podcast. Maybe we could put
Sure.
some of those popular videos in there.
Definitely. I think I went above and beyond in Lovely Planet 2. Not a lot of people know this. Nobody really discovered it. So it's all the text in the game, like on the walls, like in the world, they're all names of songs.
Oh,
All
that's
of them.
very cool.
Yeah, they're all names of songs that I was listening to while I was working on Lovely Planet 2. And that was not J-pop. It was this other genre of music called future funk.
Oh yeah,
So
I
it's
like
like
future funk.
you like future funk? Oh man, oh my god. I was just like 2017. I was just listening to future funk like all the time. I discovered Night Tempo. I discovered Desired. Oh my god, like that music was just, like when you find the kind of music that just resonates like with your soul. Like it was kind of like that for me. And so I mean, none of the music in the game is inspired by that, but I was just such a fan. I was like, I gotta pay my dues, man. So I just like I threw in all the names of tracks because they're all like about like love and being happy and all of that. So it really just fits into like the Lovely Planet aesthetic also.
Have you ever considered using, your proprietary assets that are the visuals behind Lovely Planet? Have you ever thought about using that as a music video to make a music video for a J-pop or future punk group?
Man,
Future pop,
Literally going to ask the same
future
question.
funk.
Yeah, so a lot of how do I approach this one? I'm not like I don't make music. I like making videos, but like only trailers and stuff like that. I really like music. I think most of the games that I work on, a lot of the inspiration comes to me from listening to music. I'm listening to a track and I'm like, my God, like this really resonates with me. And I close my eyes and I'm thinking of like, oh, what would be like a cool like gameplay snippet that would go with this music, And that's where Lovely Planet came from. That's where all of the Lovely Planet games, like I it's like my creative process, if you want to call it that. I know it sounds like a little bit cringy, but that's basically what I do. Like the music is where it comes from, I feel, to me, to a very great extent. So yeah, man, like if I think of like putting like all this great music that I listen to into a game, right? And a music video, sure, maybe, but definitely I want like all the tracks that I love, all the music that I love. I want like a game to go with it, and that's where it comes from. That's where I'm like, all right, let's start a new project. Let's see what I can make.
I could totally see, an official soundtrack coming out with an official video accompaniment to the soundtrack.
Yeah, I know
With Lovely Planet,
maybe a bit early, in terms of like how much budgetary investment you can make, but like it's not unreasonable to think you could have a legitimate like J-pop soundtrack to a Lovely Planet game.
I'm sure it's possible. Yeah. I'm sure it's possible. Like I could definitely like arrange for that if I was going for something like that. Just the budgets that I work with, I work by myself. Like I don't have a team. That's something I want to, sort out in the future. I can only make a certain kind of game with a certain scope if I'm working by myself. I've never worked in a team, and like I really feel that holds me back in many ways. Like if I could make something bigger, better, with more people, then yeah, man, like the opening cinematic for that game could definitely be like a high budget animated frame by frame Lovely Planet aesthetics with some like rocking J-pop at the back. Yes, the kind of like
cool.
the kind of cutscene that really gets you pumped to like get into the game. Like back in the 90s when games would come out, even the 2000s, like they would start with an intro cinematic, like one of those, the ones that really get you excited to play the game. I remember the one from Crysis, like where they show off the suit. I don't know if you've played Crysis, but that would get you so excited to play the game. I'm like, this is just dripping with awesome. Like, I want to be that guy. Like, can you please just get me to the fucking menu, please? So like one of those, videos. I would totally be down to have one of those in my games.
There's just something about a good opening cinematic. Like, it used to be kind of a requirement, and now a lot of games like kind of forego it, or But like that PlayStation like 1 era, where like every single game you played had like this like long, arduous opening cinematic.
Yeah, I know.
What happened?
I don't know where that went. They were so initially, I think they came from games needed like an idle mode. Mm-hmm. So when games were being presented, they didn't want it to be stuck on the menu. So that's why like if you left games on the menu, it would go into like a cinematic.
Yeah, good
Uh,
point. That's actually
yeah,
a really good point.
I don't know why they don't do that anymore. Like, there's probably some reason there. I'm not too sure, but those were, I think that like even in like old Blizzard games, right? Like the cinematics were like a reward. Like you'd play hours of Diablo 2, and you would be stuck in this like a whole like act of the game, right? There are 4 or 5 acts or whatever, and then you're playing this act and you're dying and you're coming back, you're losing your items, you're defeating mini bosses, you defeat bosses, and after hours of like playing, you get this awesome pre-rendered cutscene with the characters that you're playing with, right? And that was like a reward, that was like an unlock almost, right? Like, oh, I unlocked the 4th cinematic of the game, right? Now we get items or whatever. Like back in the day, it was just like, oh, I got to see the pre-rendered cutscene, which was like this awesome example of like computer graphics or whatever at the time. So that was a reward in and of itself, and I don't think we do that anymore because the whole idea of a cinematic has lost its charm, I think, to some extent. So that's like I think that's just the old way of doing things at this point.
I feel like the
That really shined. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I want you to say what you had to say first, and then I'll finish.
I was going to say that really shined in a lot of the older arcade-style skateboarding and rollerblading games, like in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Your achievements, the things that you would unlock throughout the game were, videos, edits of real professional skaters in real life.
Right. Yeah, that's good stuff, I think.
Best. Such a great reward.
To your point of them kind of being beat to death, I think that kind of happened around like Gears of War type stuff, where that was kind of the beginning of the end in terms of, is this a game or am I watching a movie? And
yeah, Gears of War, you press the A button throughout the movie.
Yeah. Games changed, I think. Yeah, because I think also the computer graphics caught up, right? Like your in-game graphics are almost like pre-rendered, like cutscenes now.
Oh man, I remember
from back in the day.
The first time I played Uncharted, I want to say 3. I was sitting in the living room, and it was like me and my grandpa are sitting there. He walks in, and he legitimately thought he was watching a movie. Like he really didn't know.
Yeah.
It's as good. I remember even people with the movie Beowulf, like, were thinking that was a live action movie until they got to the theaters.
Yeah, I remember that movie. Yeah, like super realistic, right? So yeah, I think like that's something that we've just left behind. If you can still do it, I don't know what kind of what kind of impact it would have, because also like it's also the internet, like that also ruins it to some extent. Where back in the day you would get a game, right? There's no internet, and like you get a CD, and a couple of your friends are playing it, and there is a cutscene in the game. All right, there's a cutscene 16 hours into the game, and the only way you get to see that cutscene is by playing those 16 hours and beating the boss, right? There's no other way for you to be able to see that. Like you can't just go on YouTube.
Go to YouTube. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's why adventure games died a little bit, is because you can just look everything up. Right. That's where I think games like Dark Souls come in to like change that, where there are games now that are aware of the fact that 1 million people will be playing it. Right. So back in the day, it was more of like a one-on-one thing. So giving a cutscene in exchange for playing the game for a certain period of time and getting through the challenges made a lot of sense. So I think like we'll come up with a new way to like reward players. Loot boxes or something. I don't know, man.
So earlier, not to like just straight up segue away from it, but you mentioned how you wanted to explore different ideas and different genres and things. What do you think are kind of the routes that you want to go from here?
From here, so yeah, after Lovely Planet 2 came out, I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. Like I've kind of stepped away from not just games development, but man, I've not even been playing games recently. Like life's happening, just going through a phase, like doing other stuff. But yeah, coming back, I think I don't have like I used to be like obsessed with like a certain genre of games before, like of course like first person shooters, right? So most of my ideas would revolve around doing something with the FPS genre. At this point, like I just want to, like the one thing that inspires me is like I just want to do something new. I just want to do something that we haven't seen before. That could be a fixed like genre, but with one thing turned on its head, right? or it could be something that just you can't even recognize it's a game anymore. Like I want to experiment with like all these different things. Like I'm super interested in like how social media works. I want to figure out like ways to get players together on the internet in new and like unique ways. Look at Among Us, right? That game's, it's everywhere. What is that game? What genre of game is that? Right? Like that's the kind of stuff I want to do. I don't want to like limit myself to certain kinds of genres. I just want to do something completely different.
Wise words. Definitely.
Let's see what comes out though. Let's see what comes out. Like this is just it's all talk right now, but let's see.
I mean, if you can just keep the same amount of creative juice, I don't even doubt it in terms of like, can you accomplish your goals? It's like, can you continue to have the same motivation, right? Like, so they talk about that. I mentioned the term sophomore album earlier. They say that like a rock band, when they make their first album, they've had their entire life up to that point to make that album. And like, if they come out really hot, it's not hard to make a great first album. It's difficult to make a great second album. So when you shift fundamentally from where you were before, you try to capture lightning in a bottle for a second time, that is where it's difficult. And I trust that if you can, if you can keep the same creative juice flowing through your veins that you had when you made the first Lovely Planet, I'm certain that whatever you make will be awesome.
Here's hoping, man. Here's hoping. Like I hope so too. I feel that Lovely Planet was just like a watershed moment, right? Like I lost, like you said, like the energy in the bottle and all of that, right? I lost a part of me when Lovely Planet came out, right?
Ooh, that's
like
beautiful.
that energy, that the hunger to like create something, right? Like I've always wanted to make something. Like I was always that kid who's like, oh, one day I'm gonna make a video game and a million players are gonna play it all over the world. And then after that happens, you're just like looking in the mirror. You're like, okay, now what? Like, what are you gonna do with your life now? Like you did it. Like, just what are you gonna do, right? So I think a lot of like the last couple of years has been that, when I'm just trying to like figure out what am I gonna do. And I think in that process, like I feel like I've come full circle, where I'm getting, I had a little bit of like, what do you call it? Like fear of missing out. Like I was always working on video games. Like I didn't have a life, right? And coming out of Lovely Planet, I was like, okay, now, I can do whatever the hell I want. Like I don't have that promise to live up to, because I made good on it. Like I said I was going to make video games. I did it. Now I can just do whatever the hell I want. And I had a lot of fun. Like after Lovely Planet, I traveled the world. I went all these cool places. I got jobs in like different countries. I met a lot of cool different people. I did, went on fun adventures, went backpacking. And after like seeing all of that, I'm getting more to terms with the fact that, you know what, I should get back to making video games, because that's where it's at for me. Like there isn't really much else.
So is that what brought you to Hong Kong?
Before Hong Kong also, like I was working a job in Thailand, in Bangkok. I was working in a games development studio over there. And after that, I quit that job because, I could, after 1 year of like being stuck to a desk, I was like, yeah, whatever, like I don't need to do this. And I left. I went to Europe. I did like a backpacking trip across Europe with my brother. Came back from that. I'm like, all right, now I got to do something else. Went to Vietnam, and I got a motorbike in Saigon, and I drove it all the way to Hanoi, and all the way out to the Chinese border. I was like, yeah, let's go out, like, a real life adventure. Like it's like it's like an adventure game, but it's real life. Pretty much what was going on in my head. I won't lie,
I'd like to see a video game of your adventure.
Road trash, basically.
Road trash. That's a perfect. I'll produce it. Let's sign him up right now. Gelmo, go ahead and start drawing up the contract.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So we're past the hour mark now, so it's time to kind of start looking at wrapping things up. But before we do, Gelmo, do you have any last minute comments or questions you'd like to pass Victor's way?
Nothing in particular. I definitely hit all the questions I had in mind. Thank you for answering all those so perfectly, Victor.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Now, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we get out of here, like in terms of just like plugging anything, any projects, social media, just words of wisdom that you'd like to pass on to other aspiring indie developers, anything like that?
Words of wisdom, just keep at it. Don't think about what other people are doing. Like, if you think that there's something out there that you want to go after, you should go after it, even if people are telling you it's not good enough or whatever. Never listen to them. Just do your thing. That's my words of wisdom. Otherwise, yeah, I'm getting back to developing video games. Like, I wasn't doing that the whole of like last year. I'm getting back to it. I post updates on my Twitter @_vidvat, and I have my website where you can look at all of my games. That's quicktequila.com, and you can get Lovely Planet on Steam and Xbox and PlayStation. And Lovely Planet 2 came out last year, which you can pick up on Steam. That's my plug.
All right, dude. This has been really an outstanding interview. Like, I've had a lot of fun.
Awesome.
In particular, we have lots of people that come do interviews with us and all this kind of shit. And then sometimes I just go out on a limb, right? Like, I had no knowledge of you prior to maybe 2 weeks ago, Gelmo, when you were like, you got to play this game. And
yeah, about 2 weeks ago.
And I was really confused I was trying to find you, right? And I'm like, okay, so this game's kind of like Chinese looking or East Asian looking, and then I found your website and it's like it says you're from India. I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? I finally tracked you down, and it's like just you've been saying the entire interview like I didn't really plan on this. It just happened like the way it did, and it's like so it just happened perfectly, and that's how I found you too. So maybe you have some kind of special aura about you, but
maybe, man, maybe, yeah.
Really, keep it up, and yeah. You're invited back anytime you want. Anytime you want.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Like, I'm usually not good at podcasts. I don't really find it easy to talk about the game. But I've been getting to terms with that. Like, I like to talk about the game now and tell people about it. So it was fun being on here and talking to you guys about the game. Thanks for playing it and telling your followers about it and all of that.
Hey, dude, when you come back, we'll talk about Road Trash. It'll be great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
We're looking forward to your next project, no matter what it is. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it.
Soon, man, soon.
Thank you to Vidvat for joining us. Quicktequila, Victor, whatever the fuck you want to call him, the man of many names and the man of many games. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he comes out with in the future. Also, big thank you to GelmoSan for joining us. I could not have gotten as in-depth with this interview as I would have wanted to without him. So, again, always huge props to GelmoSan. Thank you to all of our wonderful supporters out there. You guys know who you are, but I'm going to tell the whole world who you are, just in case they don't already know. Paul, Moose, Dots, Zach, Alexander, Brad, Red Eyes Green Dragon, Anthony, Robert, Zach, Brandy, Fred, Lord Revan, you are the lifeblood. You guys keep the lights on here. That's amazing. Thank you so much for putting your money where your mouth is in terms of supporting the show. I know you guys work hard for that, and the fact that you see fit, that you take enough value in the Keep to put it over here to support this thing, not only does it make me happy, but it pleases the drowned god Katala. For those of you out there wondering, how can I get my name on that list of people that sound so cool? Head over to inthekeep.com/support. You can find all the different ways to support the show from there. Many different ways. Obviously, patrons get access to all episodes early, so that's one route you can go, but there are many others. Check out some of our affiliate links. We got some cool ones down there. Not going to bore you with the details today. Just want to say, I love you. The drowned god Katala loves you. And until next time, stay in the Keep.